Okay, our next speakers are Dr. Maya Reynoso, Lisa Rochester, and Nai Kwong from ICI. They're our researchers. And they'll begin here.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
That's very impressive because your response tells me something very important. I'm not really a researcher. If you look at our backgrounds, we didn't want to spend a lot of time going through the bios, but you can read them later. But during the break, I'm more of a practitioner, but I went around and sort of surveyed people and came out with 3 cohorts. There's the cold cohort in here, people who are cold. There's the sleepy cohort, people who told me don't be offended if I fall asleep during your presentation. And there's the 3rd cohort, which is the, I hope they are very quick because I got plans tonight. And a couple of you are in all 3 cohorts. So, we are from the Institute for Community Inclusion at UMass Boston, and our job is to kind of really give you a sense of what our partnership. And so we're going to do this in three ways. First, we're going to tell you the who we are, the what the peer-to-peer research team academy is, mentor academy. With peer-to-peer, I'm sleepy too. That thing, we'll tell you what that is. And then we're going to tell you the how we're going to go about this. So with that, I also did want to acknowledge something that Dr. Atkins said, because I think it is really why we're all in the room, and that is to improve the human condition. And I think we just have to constantly keep that in the front of our heads as we go through this, that there's a purpose for all this. It's not just about the funding and even though funding is important, but it's also to improve the human condition. So those are our 3 areas that we're going to cover, and it also kind of is symbolic of the African proverb that sticks in a bundle are unbreakable. When we get together, we're stronger. So our presentation, I'll just first share with you that this is who's here. Paula could not join us. She had a family emergency, but her bio is also in your handout. And we also have another member who is also a researcher and professor in rehab counseling, which is Dimity Peters. So a little bit about UMass Boston and who we are. The school was born, like many of us, or like me, in the early 1960s, and it was an outgrowth of the civil rights movement and a lot of things that were happening in the city of Boston, and people saw education as a way to change that. And so we now have 16,000 undergraduate and graduate students with 11 colleges and multiple programs, 30 research institutes, of which the ICI is one, and we're the only public university in New England recognized by NIH as a minority serving institution. Our students, out of that 16,000, you'll see we are very diverse. 3/4 of them are actually undergraduate students, but almost 60% are women. And we have, from minority populations, there are 44% of our students, and it breaks out here, and you'll get the handout later as well. But the thing that is also significant is that over 50% of our first-year students are from families where they're the first one in their family to go to a university. So it's a pretty important school. This is kind of our campus, and it's actually on the water. Our office, I know, it's really pretty. But it was actually built by a contractor, parts of it, that built a prison, and there was so much corruption that he ended up in prison, but that's another story. That's another story about Boston. That's Boston. I know. But that's our campus, but we actually work in the heart of the city, in Boston proper at the Institute. We also wanted to just give you, again, some more of our diversity. So at least one from our 595 first-time, full-time freshmen, and this is historical, so this was back in 2000. Their citizenship ranged from all over the world, from Albania to Ethiopia to Yugoslavia. We have students that come from over 62 countries, and also speaking multiple languages as well, from Arabic to French to Creole to Vietnamese. So we're pretty diverse, and when you walk around the campus, you see that reflected in the students. Our institute, though, Institute for Community Inclusion, was also born in the 60s, and it's an outgrowth of Children's Hospital. And we started off very focused on children and children with disabilities, but over the years have grown from a small group that represents maybe what's on this platform to now almost 200 employees at our institute. And they range in areas, but focus on everything from employment of people with disabilities to inclusion in all aspects of life: education, employment, community, and also health and wellness. So that's a little bit about us. And we just this year launched our new School for Global Inclusion and Social Development, which expands beyond people with disabilities to inclusion of all people around the globe. And we have a master's program and PhD program, which we just started. So we're 100% funded by grants, and that's one of the reasons I think they picked us to expand to become a school, because we really do believe in going out there and trying to really do the best research, being in the community, being applied research, and we try to go after the money, which is why we really wanted to be a part of this partnership as well, so that we could learn and we could share what we've learned. And with that, I'll switch over to Nye to talk about the actual study.
Hello everyone, my name is Nye Kwan. I'm a research associate at the ICI. I'm sort of regarded as the number guy there. But today I'm really happy to be here. Instead of speaking about log likelihood or standard deviation or p-value, I'm going to give you a brief overview of this peer-to-peer mentor Research Team Academy. Okay, there are two objectives of this project. The first one is to build the fellows' scholarly self-efficacy and research skills. So specifically, we're going to provide training or refresher workshop on research skills, such as identifying or forming research questions, research methods, data analysis skills, and also manuscript development, and also a grant proposal development. And on top of this, they're going to be equipped with solid researching skills. They're also going to be kept motivated, engaged, inspired, and also be reinforced through this academy to hold on to their initial beliefs that they can make impact or contribution through research to improve the quality of life for people with disability from minority backgrounds. And also, other than the solid researching skills, the mentors in this program will provide them with some soft skills, such as leadership skills, time management skills, and also how to build up the relationship among colleagues to create a project like this. It's a collaboration. And the second objective of this project is to provide them with hands-on experience to conduct research and also grant proposal development. So we're expecting two products coming out from this project. The first one is a manuscript. That is a publishable manuscript ready to be submitted to a peer-reviewed journal. And second one is a proposal that can address the priority A of the NIBA. Okay? And to achieve these objectives, we're gonna do the following things to ensure that they can be achieved. The first one is we're going to provide them with scientific information on measurements and methodologies for culturally appropriate disability-related research. And the second is we're going to provide them with research principles, standards for culturally appropriate, linguistically competent disability and rehabilitation research. And the third one, we're going to give them some best practice, sort of good examples nowadays on disability research, such as knowledge translation, which is an excellent example. And not only ensure them they know how to do research, but go beyond that. They will be able to evaluate their research and also disseminate their research results in different ways to reach out to different populations. And also, we're going to provide them with opportunities to interact with their peers, which are the fellows from different institutions who has a similar interest and passion about disability research. We're going to help them to build up the linkage across the nation. And last one, we're going to provide them with real-life experience on peer reviewing, which is a cruelty in the academia world. But we have to face it. You have to know how to face rejection, reformation. Yeah. This is what we're going to do. Okay. And then this is the basic structure of the academy. So 3 fellows from 6 selected minority institutions from each institution. So 3 times 6, that's 18. And and then they're going to be assigned in one of the 3 research teams. And each team will have a mentorship panel, which consists of mentors who have expertise in research methodology, on the content, policy, and also who has a strong research agenda on the targeted population. Okay, here's the fellows inclusion criteria. The first one is the fellow must be employed as a faculty member or researcher in a minority-serving institution. And the second one, we want to incorporate sort of interdisciplinary approach to this project. So the fellows are not limited to rehabilitation field, but they can be coming from different areas such as social science, health, or allied health professions. So, for example, you can have a sociology background, you can be a nurse, you can be an OTPT. So this is an interdisciplinary approach. And the last one is they need to submit 3 letters of recommendations. One is from the officer, the chief executive officer, or the president of that institution, approving the time release. Okay, and the other 2 will be from their colleagues. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, there will be 6 phases in the 4-year time frame. So Myra will provide you with specific information related to each phase.
May I ask a quick question before the numbers guy moves? When you say assigned to one of 3 research teams, do you mean that the 3 fellows will go to one team or 1 fellow per team? How would that?
6 fellows will be in one team. There are 18 fellows, so 3 teams, approximately 3, who has a similar interest will be assigned to one team.
took all my good stuff. I really, I do want to correct Lisa. I think there's a fourth cohort for those of you who are coming from a place like Boston, and that fourth cohort is, how can I squeeze in outside on that deck, get some sun, and see some skin that I have not seen in about 9 months? I would be one of those folks. So I think, earlier on in the morning we talked a little bit about approaching the work that we do from a strengths perspective. And I added this after that discussion this morning. And obviously I'm a proud mama. This is my 12-year-old daughter who did a project on Cesar Chavez, who's clearly very proud of being Mexican and Cuban. And the reason why I start off with that is to make it very, very clear, and for those of you, I think you all are familiar after Obama's race, that, it's roughly translated into yes, we can. And those 3 words are incredibly powerful. And that is really what we keep saying over and over in the work that we do. When Corey, Dr. Moore approached us to work on this, it did seem a bit daunting at first, and we said, yes, we can. Yes, we can, we will do this. And so, just to make very clear, this is the view in which we approach all of our work. It also is the view in which we approach what Dr. Atkins talked about this morning, our commitment to the communities that we work with, to the communities that we come from, and to the work of working with folks with disabilities as well, and working with them as our colleagues, not just as research subjects. I wanted to just start off with that, but I'm going to get into the different phases, and I know others from Langston University have talked a little bit about when we were developing our ideas around the mentorship model, what kind of informed us. And we definitely did the good old, let's look at the literature, let's consult some experts. But then we have a very, as Lisa talked about, a very rich institute. And we kind of talked to everybody and pulled our experiences as all of us have had mentors. And we want to know the good, the bad, the ugly, all that stuff. And one of the things we realized was that all of us had mentors that were senior to us, were more advanced, in my case, researchers, and they were important on many levels. Sometimes they weren't very available, though. And what we started to think about was looking at sort of who have been collaborators on grants, co-PIs, co-authors, and to a great extent, it's been our peers. And so we wanted to be able to kind of create a hybrid model where there was sort of the high-level mentorship which folks will get, but that there's also this camaraderie and a pool of peers that it's gonna live beyond 5 years, without a doubt. I still work very closely with peers from my mentorship program. So very quickly, the 6 phases, and I'm going to go into them briefly, is the residency phase. Let's just skip in the interest of time. And in the residency phase, the fellows are going to go to a 2-day training at Langston University. And the training, of course, will include instruction on best practices and multicultural rehab research as identified in NIDER's long-range plan. We're going to go over data sources. A lot of folks don't realize how many wonderful publicly available data sets are where you just you don't have to wait to get started. And also, we're going to talk about and present some of our disability research, both from Langston University and some of our partners. A lot of us have quite a few other research projects going on that really overlap with the work here. I do want to also address, as we're talking, and I talked a little bit about the methods, and he is the number guy, even though he originated, he kind of stole them from the gerontology department. We recognize that, yes, there is an emphasis sometimes on quantitative, but our approach is to include both qualitative and quantitative, and in thinking about this, thinking about you never know what tool you're going to need to pull out of your toolbox. And so we want to strengthen the tools of all of the fellows. So we want them to have options as they develop their We're not going to emphasize one over the other. Part of what we're going to do with the needs assessment is find out what do they need more training in, what do they want more training in, and be responsive to that. So in terms of the next phase, it's the remote contact phase, and when we say research, it's research project slash manuscript development of sorts. So fellows are going to participate in a half-day contact session, in a half-day contact session every 4 weeks for a 6-month period. Each team will develop a research project that addresses priority A. Priority A is examines experiences and outcomes of individuals with disabilities from traditionally underserved populations on topics that fall under at least one of the life domains, such as employment, participation in community living, and health and function. And each team will develop a research project manuscript and present it to other fellows. One of the things we want to do is get fellows used to being able to review manuscripts, get involved in journal reviewing of manuscripts for journals. And I think about Dr. Feast-Price when she said that the issue of feeling like an imposter when all of a sudden you're like, I'm a doctor, oh my gosh. I felt the same way when they sent me, Dr. Venoso, could you please review this manuscript? I had no idea. I was like, really? Okay. So this is a really important part of being able to understand how to get published as well, and how to grow. So this is a big part of what we also want to include. Let's see. So the next phase is the consultative contact phase 1, and continuing on the manuscript and research project development. They will continue to conduct research and during this 12-month period. In some cases, it may be as simple as helping them to work on their IRB to analyze a secondary data set. It may be helping them to figure out how to collect their own data. We're hoping that they're going to use some of the wonderful data that is available through NIDR, RSA 911, and whatnot. So they're going to participate in contact session once every 4 weeks to report progress and problem solving. And we're going to have a website, a project management website, that's going to help to not only track progress, but sort of identify where there was a roadblock, when did it happen, how was it identified, how did we solve it, and how long did it take. We think this will really inform the evaluation and inform the whole model in general. And again, we will be there to assist in helping fellows to submit project to professional journal and conference presentation, including State of the Science Conference. So stage 4, remote contact phase 2 is grant proposal. And this is a 6-month phase. Fellows in research teams will develop research proposal concepts, grant applications that address priority A, and each team will submit a grant to NIDR under the field-initiated projects or the Switzer. Let me just make sure I've got everything. One of the things as we enter, this is a 6-month more intensive phase. Then we're looking at in phase 5, 18 months of a longer phase of research grant proposal development. And again, fellows are going to submit under NIDR. Partially, we're trying to stay flexible with when the announcements come out and to teach fellows to how to look for those announcements, to start to identify, start getting used to reading the Federal Register and things like that. Fellows are going to continue to communicate once every 4 weeks with peers as needed with the mentors. And I think, again, one of the things we're thinking, some of the fellows may develop a little bit faster, may be lucky, get funded quickly, and back to sort of Nai's comment about getting used to rejection, it's just, it's part of being a researcher. We want to be there so that when they do submit and they get their reviewers' comments, if they get it funded, wonderful, hallelujah. If they don't, it's sort of, okay, here's what you do with these reviewer comments. You look at them, it's not the end of the world. If you really read through them, they're helping you out. Let's revise and resubmit. So to be there for the first possible point in which some people get really discouraged and don't continue. And then the final stage, the final completion phase, is the 9-month phase. Chance to tie up loose ends. We're anticipating some of the submission of manuscripts. We also have peer review comments from editors and whatnot, so we can be there to help assist with that. And fellows are also going to participate in exit interviews and short surveys to evaluate the efficacy of the model. We are also building into this some time dedicated to grants management. A lot of us kind of learn trial by fire a little bit. Some of us were blessed to have great folks in our Office of Sponsored Research and grants administrators that walked us through it. And it makes a big difference, so we want to incorporate that as well. Just quickly, because I know the time, this is a little bit of the timeline and of what we're thinking about for how these phases are going to roll out. And again, in the interest of time, we can provide these slides if folks are interested, because this really breaks down here what are the fellows' expectations as well as the mentors' roles. I do want to say we already have started sort of a link to get more mentors. We have a significant amount of mentors even from in-house, from ICI, and we cover the gambit. We have a lot of researchers in the area of rehab research, but we also have folks from education, gerontology, statisticians, pediatricians, you name it. So we have quite a few folks already on board, and many of whom have been successful NIDER grantees. And I guess, Lisa, why don't you come on up, because I'm going to show our favorite slide. This is my favorite as well. The grand finale, because as we talk about all this, we do talk about how many publications have you had and all this stuff, but the reality, how much money have you gotten through funding? The reality is we talk about the work that we do is really about improving the human condition and increasing the pipeline, so an even brighter future. And that is, that's my daughter and Lisa.
And those are Alex, Morgan State, communications major, Alyssa, WSSU, but then went on to get her master's in social work from Rutgers. She is now a rehab counselor too in the state of Delaware, doing transitioning youth from high school to jobs and to college. So, yeah, all right, guys.
I only contributed one to the pipeline, but you know, I'm working on it. So, again, here's the thing. I know we're running late. You can ask us questions if you have just one or two immediately. If not, we as a team will be outside after this, just right outside these doors, so you can come up to us and ask us any questions. So I think, oh, I do? Okay.
Quick question. So just to clarify, because I know somebody would ask me this, if I went to a potential fellow and said, would you consider being nominated for this? So it's two different NIDER proposals. That's the goal, is that correct?
It's a choice.
It's a choice between, you had one at 6 months, you had another one at 18 months.
Well, Corey, do you want to,
So I think your question is whether it's two NIDER proposals, not two NIDER proposals, one research project and one NIDER proposal. So the first year and a half reflects the research project. So the fellows, the research team would work in terms of developing the research project and address that priority A, NIDER's priority A, experiences, rehabilitation experiences of persons from traditionally underserved populations. Then the next phase, after phase 2, would focus on 6 months, I think, 6 months, in terms of developing a concept for the team to come together and develop a concept for the grant proposal. Then they would spend the next 18 months, the next year and a half, developing the NIDER proposal. So theoretically, one would think that the topic that the research team would work on initially as the first phase of developing the research project would inform the development of the actual proposal. Because of course you'd have the literature built, you would have synthesized the literature, you know, and have, based on the findings of the literature, have a greater understanding of the problems and the issues so that you can build that into the need or the rationale for the FIP or the Switzer. And I think my response was that there are two types of NIDER programs that the fellows could go after. One is the field initiated project, which is $200,000 per year over a 3-year period. The other one is the Switzer Award, which I think NIDER has two different Switzer Awards. One is the Distinguished Switzer, and Shelley, what's the other one? And the Merit. And they have different criteria. I think the Switzer, the Distinguished may require a number of years of service at an institution within the professoriate.
And we'll go over that, we'll go into more detail on that.
So she'll talk about that tomorrow.
And just quickly, part of the rationale behind that is two things. One is what Dr. Moore mentioned about making certain they've done the lit review, maybe have looked at some preliminary data analysis or pilot data that they can put into a grant application. But also the other thing is we recognize that some of the fellows may not have a lot of publications. And so if we can also help them to, while they're developing this, get a couple publications so that you can also kind of say, oh, this person knows what they're doing, because it's sort of, without publications, it's also really hard to get funded. And so that's why we kind of have timed it in this way, if that's.
And the conduct of the research in terms of the first item, and as Myra stated, many of the fellows may not have peer-reviewed publications. So that experience, of course, can build their skills in terms of carrying out the grant. If they were to get the funding, the subsequent funding, then they'll have to do the research, so they would be familiar with doing the research as well. Self-efficacy, confidence, believing in themselves that they can actually do it. I think the first step is designed to build that self-efficacy.
And I think, do we have time? We have one more question, is that all right? Okay, one more question and then.
I was wondering if the selected individuals are employees of an institute such as yours, ICI, would they qualify and do this fellowship as part of their daily work?
I think if they meet the criteria that we just outlined, then they're subject to be evaluated. So if they meet the criteria, then if the institution is selected, then we'll go with those fellows.
And part of the question about part of their daily work, I think you're getting at the whole buying out time for teaching and whatnot. That is Langston University's realm of kind of, that's, ours is to focus on training and helping them to move forward.
So you had a question. Was your question addressed?
Yeah, I'll discuss it further with you later.
Sounds good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.